So number one, make sure your site is ADA compliant. So the Americans with Disabilities Act also influences how people can access information on a website.
Yeah.
And it's important. And this is a signal for search engines. So can people with disabilities use your website? There are a lot of different tools for folks with either hearing impairment or vision impairment to use the internet. And so if you use accessible.com, they have a way that you can run your site through a tool and get a checklist and start to resolve problems. And then, of course, after you make changes, you can make sure those are propagated to the internet and then rerun the test. And so these things, they're not always things that we see. Sometimes, something like having alt text on an image, it's not something that if you just go look at your website, you're going to necessarily notice, oh, we're missing that bit of extra code related to this image. So it's really important to have a true testing protocol to understand whether or not your website is in good shape and you're doing everything you can do for search engines, because this is not something where if you go look at the website and it looks okay, you're going to catch it. Yeah. So, and there are a lot of improvements to SEO that fall into that category of things that you don't see when you go to the website, but they're totally broken from the point of view of a search engine. So when search engines are indexing your website, they're using hundreds of different factors, and ADA compliance is one of these. Plus, you just don't want to be a bad citizen of serving all your community. One of our folks who does a lot of writing for GoEps and even helps produce this podcast. Her name's Beth, and she's awesome. And she uses a wheelchair, and it's not something that comes up day to day, but she's very aware of sort of how disabilities can affect usability of a different company and their offers and services, whether it's their facilities or or the way they're just handling the way they do things. Mm-hmm. So putting on the glasses of saying, hey, we're going to go through and run this tool and see it from this perspective can be really helpful. Yeah. And you just want to be a good citizen of this thing too, and make sure that you're not involuntarily cutting out a portion of your audience. Mm-hmm. These another way to refer to handicapped people is customers. So, if you want to kind of get politically correct and say differently abled, that's fine. The phrase I like is customers. And so this is kind of like a little joke Beth and I have had is, hey, these are customers. Don't cut out your audience. So we think that's a good way to think about it. So yeah, number one, ADA compliance.
That's good.